Why not treat yourself to a Father's Day present that will keep giving back? On sale through this Sunday, you can get in on all the MLB action through the All-Star Game for under $5 a day. That's right, you'll get every MLB play, including all best bets for over a month of baseball action from your favorite WagerTalk handicapper for only $149. This amazing offer expires Sunday at midnight, so just go to your favorite handicappers page at WagerTalk or Sports Memo and lock in all the MLB action through the All-Star Game for under $5 a day.
Happy Friday, everybody. Andy from WagerTalk.com. Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one through the props betting market. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com, Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. We've got no more NBA, guys. Season has officially come and gone, but that doesn't mean we have other things to go over. We're going to be going over some K-props and MLB. Andrew, you've got some CFL as well. We've got UFC and a few other things. So, Andrew, coming to you first, how has the last week been for you? And CFL, I noticed CFL seems to be going well kind of across the board. Several unders last week were popular. So how's the last 7 days been for you, sir?
Great. Good to see you, Andy. And yeah, look, I mean, if you're fading a team in the CFL at this point, especially for the first couple of weeks, you might as well take their team total under 2, because we saw some offenses that just couldn't get anything going. Offensive lines that looked non-existent, quarterbacks running for their lives. And you're going to see that a lot of times, number one, in the CFL when there's so much turnover in this league every single offseason with all the different changes, trades, free agency. So, team totals definitely a play I'm looking at, especially big totals, guy, especially in the first couple of weeks. And I'm telling you, Andy, when we start to see these, because we're starting to see some props. There are some props at some offshore books, especially, and then some that I think you can only get in Canada. But they're starting to pop up across the board in the U.S. as well. And hopefully, we're talking on this show in a few weeks about some CFL props because there is some money to be made. And I was thinking next week I actually might, pull up like a FanDuel or a DraftKings and actually make a lineup. I think that would be kind of cool for a fantasy lineup and stuff like that to do as well. But things are great. As you mentioned, NBA done with, and I'm going to be soon in the same boat with the NHL. So a great opening game in the NHL, and hopefully some more money to be made in the prop market.
Absolutely. We're going to go into NHL a little bit more in depth. Coming to you, Matt, K-props. Nobody better in the business. So, Matt, first off, how did NBA go for you this playoffs, and in particular last night? And then how have the K-props been over the last week?
As a lifelong Warriors fan, I'm really happy to have seen what happened last night. Glad to see the Celtics finally go down. It's been a hard life being a Warriors fan as of late. No, but seriously, I mean, the Sixers just signed James Harden for like 3 years, so I may want to go look elsewhere to be a fan. But, it was I had a couple last night. You put me on the Otto Porter stuff, and I just went with his rebounds and assists, and thankfully that part hit. And also, Kevon Looney's over. I think got, bitten a little bit by the fact that he was in foul trouble again. He missed a couple of layups. And then also some other stuff was good. And, as you said, it was good to have the NBA playoffs, but it was also a blowout every night. With regards to K-props, it's kind of a hot and cold thing. It's kind of the frustration of baseball in that you can go and find every sort of trend that kind of goes in your favor. A team that doesn't strike out a lot against lefties, they're not striking out a lot recently as a whole. And then all of a sudden, one game, first 5 guys strike out, and then it's, under 5.5, and the 6th guy randomly strikes out later. So that's the frustration of baseball, is the numbers help a lot with your handicapping, but there's times where sometimes the trends just don't go your way, and it feels like baseball that happens more than any other.
Well, let's keep going with the K-props because we're obviously right in the middle of baseball season. So have you looked at anything else besides K-props, or are you just sticking with K-props as your main source of wagers in MLB?
Well, I've dabbled in the outs props. That one's a little bit more difficult to do in terms of, trying to find the right pitchers and things like that. And I've been also doing earned runs allowed, which is a very funny stat because yesterday Patrick Corbin gave up 9 runs or 8 runs, whatever it is, but only 2 of them were earned. So if you had under 2.5 earned runs, you won yesterday, even though Patrick Corbin was terrible. So that's the fun thing on like DraftKings where you could find that. I think BetMGM also has that statistic. But guys, I also I had a K-pop graphic today, and it's actually a legit one. It's not just one that says this is a graphic.
Very impressive.
So the fine folks in the back want to pop this graphic up just to kind of show you some trends right now. The Dodgers have gone over in 10 straight K-props, 14 of their last 16, and they've had some healthy numbers too. The Dodgers may be hitting the ball a lot lately, but they're going over their K-prop. Giants are on a 13-2 overrun. The Tigers are on an 8-2 overrun. And then on the other side, a team like the Phillies, which you would think are more of a free-swinging bunch, 10-3 to the under. And they've got a doubleheader today, so that'll be interesting. The Mariners are 16-8 to the under. And the Yankees, another team with Joey Gallo, a team I would never think to take the under because you know Stanton strikes out a lot. They're actually 10-3 to the under lately. So there's been some interesting trends as of late. Some big names there, guys, in terms of offenses, but certainly some overs to take advantage of and some unders to take advantage of in the Major League Baseball K-prop market.
We're kind of to the point of the year where we're starting to see some pitchers settle in, maybe some that started off hot, starting to struggle, and then maybe the opposite, some that started off really bad and then are starting to really pick it up. Are there any pitchers in particular that you've noticed that you're saying, wow, so some things are starting to change here? We might have some value here going up over the next 2 or 3 weeks as the books try and figure this number out.
Well, I mean, the one guy, and he's pitching today, is the one that the books have struggled with, is Jordan Montgomery. And Jordan Montgomery for the Yankees is a guy that we were able to take advantage of. They put up some high numbers for him, and he's a guy that the Yankees like to keep and take him out as quick as possible. Like, he'll go 5 1/3, 5 2/3, 6 innings max. They don't love him going and facing the lineup a third time through. Now, today, the number's 4.5, so they smartened up a little bit. The other thing I've kind of noticed as of late, and it's kind of weird, so, like, we just had this situation in the Minnesota-Seattle series with Sonny Gray and Joe Ryan both coming off the IL. They both had healthy 5.5 numbers in terms of their strikeouts, which is what it would be if they were normal, having normal outings. But, Sonny Gray came off the IL, had no rehab start, only threw 30 pitches on like a side thing. So he only went 60 pitches. It went well under the 5.5. And Joe Ryan was coming off the COVID IL. He did have a rehab start, but it wasn't a long one. So really what I want to tell people is, when these guys are coming off the IL, if the books set normal numbers for them, look at the unders. And especially go and read how many rehab starts did they make? How many pitches? What's their approach? Does the manager say, yeah, we're looking to get 70 out of the guy? Jack Flaherty just came off the IL for the Cardinals. He went 50 pitches. So really, I think sometimes the managers do some of the work for you. And if the books don't see these quotes, but you do, you can certainly take advantage of it. So fading pitchers coming off the IL is something that I love doing, especially as of late.
I want to ask you, Matt, I listen to WagerTalk today all the time. And you were a guest on the show, and you talked about teams versus pitchers and with these K-props and kind of how some people just look at the pitcher, not the teams, or vice versa. When you pull up that nice graphic, to me, it's nobody ever wants to use the expression like auto bet. That's something that you kind of want to avoid using. But when you see certain trends like that, does that help you if, let's say, you have a mediocre pitcher on the mound, still kind of be interested in getting a K-prop in on said team because of this trend? Or is it still strictly you need to have that pitcher first and the trend kind of just backs up your opinion even more?
No, it's kind of like what I talked about with like the Toledo team total overs in college basketball. They hit so much. It was something that I pretty much played every time. And this is the key I think people need to realize. When we say something is an auto bet or something, a trend goes your way, it doesn't mean you have to throw the same unit size every time. I'll just say today, I threw a unit on Zach Plesac. Zach Plesac's not a strikeout guy. He's gone over in 3 of his last 4, but it's 3.5 against the Dodgers team that's striking out a ton against all sorts of pitchers, good ones, bad ones, in the middle ones. So I think that it's a classic case of you make the bet, but you don't have to throw as many units on it. You can just do something less and play the trend. And if it doesn't work out, you're like, okay, that didn't work out, but I lost less than I would normally. So, yeah, Andrew, I would say sometimes with trends like those, especially the Dodgers one, you don't have to play the same unit size over and over again. You could still play the play, but play it for like a unit, a half a unit, whatever it is, just to have some action just in case the trend continues.
I'd like to kind of continue that because I think it's an interesting conversation and really important. I started off baseball season really hot and then kind of hit a lull. And one thing that we did was we just kind of stepped back and we said, instead of just betting sides and totals night to night, maybe we should just do a look ahead for like a week. And what we did was when we looked ahead a week, we can find series that we think, oh, a team should sweep or at least go 2-1 or 3-1 in that. And then you just kind of agree to say we're going to play all 4 of those games or all 3 of those games. But Matt, your point is great. You don't have to play it for the same unit size or percent. Perfect case, we played the Padres over the Cubs, and yesterday was just a beautiful matchup. The Cubs were throwing out a terrible pitcher, and so we made that a bigger unit size. And one thing that you guys got to realize that the books bake that advantage into their number a lot of times. So if you see a line and it's different than it was the day before, and you're thinking, oh, we're getting value, it's just because the books have decided that there's going to be different types of value in there. So Matt, when you were doing a good job talking about adjusting your unit size, yeah, you have to take into consideration that the books are going to give you some better numbers from day to day. Do you ever look at series? Like, do you ever look and say, oh, wow, this team is probably going to strike out a lot against this particular team over the next 4 games?
Sometimes, yeah, I do, and I also look for and you guys know because I've given you guys the spreadsheet that Ariel and I use. I mean, we kind of look at, I base it off of the ESPN.com starting pitchers. I don't, and as far as they project, I kind of put it in and then make the changes as it happens. But you look for that perfect team. The Nationals are really good against lefties, and I was really looking for a 4.5 today from Ranger Suarez, but the books kind of cut it off and did a 3.5. So I wasn't as interested in something like that. But yeah, I kind of do a little bit of speculating and things like that, and certainly ooh, this looks like a great matchup for me. I hope I get this number. The problem is, and I know in some of the stuff that you guys do, you're not necessarily worried about the number as much, but one strikeout means a lot. I wanted to play Hunter Green's over today. It opened up at 7.5. No, thank you. And then it went down to 6.5 in a different book, and that was just a little bit too high. So it's really about sticking to the numbers you kind of want to use. I won't play an under for Hunter Green against the Brewers because the Brewers strike out a lot, but I just won't play the over either. So it's a tough market, and it's certainly you've got to be up early because, as I said, the numbers come out early. The juices are reasonable, and then all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, it's either the number changes or the juice changes. So it's one of those things you got to get up early to get the right K-prop numbers.
Great stuff from lifelong Warriors fan Matt Josephs. Matt. Are you a free agent fan right now?
Yeah, he's hitting free agency. He's hitting free agency.
Because I gotta say, the James Harden. I can't imagine you going through 3 years of rooting for James Harden. I can't see it happening.
When they could have had Tyrese Halliburton, who you have on your basketball team, and I'm so jealous of, they could have had Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield, and I just James Harden, so here's what's going to happen. James Harden's going to come in. He's going to be in the best shape of his life. He's going to play well in the beginning because he's, and then the season's going to drag on. He's going to get fatter. He's going to get slower. And then the playoffs are going to show up and he's going to stink. And it's just going to be the same cycle over again. Then Embiid will be angry. He'll want to leave. He'll go to Miami. The Heat will be the next dynasty. And then I'll be miserable. So that's kind of how it is.
What a script! Were you talking to the NBA script makers or something like that? Did you talk to
Adam
anybody?
Silver? Yeah, it feels like it.
We gotta ask our producer Dan if he gives signs off on you leaving. We gotta find out if the fan base is willing to let you walk in free agency, and if they're gonna let you walk, then you're an open man. You're a free
Listen,
man.
I rooted for them when they had 12 wins, and they sent out guys that I've never even heard of on the court. I think I can leave now.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, with Hield and Halliburton, with Harden, it's like all wrapped into one. So you get, you get 2 for 1, but it's really more the weight. He weighs as much as Halliburton and Hield does, especially in the middle of the season. So. Well, lifelong Warriors fans, Matt, you were up all night celebrating, I'm sure. Andrew, let's go.
Andy, let me ask you. I got you do such a great job of asking us. I got to ask you, what's going on completely with you this weekend? I know I saw over at WagerTalk, there's some Formula One stuff going on, some, I believe, NASCAR. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I love learning and hearing about those types of props that you're on, because it's interesting for me. As much as I like watching shows, and when I'm watching Wager Talk today and I'm watching and they're talking about hockey or basketball or baseball, it's like, okay, I'm familiar with that stuff. When you talk about F1 props, I'm like, I have no idea what Andy's saying, but I love it.
Sure.
And it's cool, So I'm really interested in, like, can you just explain a little bit about some of those prop bets you're looking at? And I want to know if, just like how in NHL, we talk about things aren't auto bets, but there's things like the McKinnon shots on goal prop that are probably going to be pretty good in the playoffs. Are there anything like that you find? And what do you have going on this weekend?
Oh my God. Yeah. Formula One this year is an absolute auto bet. I'm bummed more people don't jump on board with these. I mean, we're hitting 63% in auto racing so far for this year. And it's, it's not like we're one or two races in. We're really far. Okay. So yeah, some auto bets. And these will change because Formula One's making some rules, but Charles Leclerc has been fastest in just about every single first practice, and you can bet on the different practices. And so the books were putting out like minus 105 Leclerc to be fastest in first practice. Auto bet. George Russell has finished top 5 in every single race this year, and you can bet on him to finish top 6. Boom, auto bet. George Russell to finish inside the top 6.
And these are good prices on these. Minus 105 on that first one.
Okay, well, so Russell is now minus 280. They've caught onto that, but you just use it as a parlay piece, or you lay the juice. I'm perfectly fine with laying. In Formula One, you have to lay juice. It's impossible to not. You're going to have to work some parlays. And actually, shameless plug, my auto racing pack is up right now. First practice starts later this afternoon. We're hitting 63%, and you get all bets from first practice all the way through the race. We have qualifying bets, we have practice bets, we have race bets. Valtteri Bottas has finished top 10 in every race except last race. And I'm going to come right back and bet him to finish top 10 again if he looks good in practice. They just changed rules. They have this thing that's been happening this year called porpoising, where the car is bouncing up and down. And last week it bounced too hard and a bunch of drivers got hurt. Lewis Hamilton hurt his back so bad they didn't know if he was going to be able to race. So the Formula One is making several cars change, and that's going to really hurt Lewis Hamilton and that Mercedes car. He's banged up, he's injured, and you can get his teammate, George Russell, over Lewis Hamilton in first practice at like minus 175. Why wouldn't you take that? Lewis Hamilton's back is hurt. You think he's going to go out there and rip it up in first practice? No chance. So they're going to be working on their car. And the other thing that happened was all the Ferrari engines failed last week. Both Ferrari cars blew up and went out, and then their JV squad cars blew up. So Ferrari has 1 week to figure out why all of their engines and power units blew up. So they got a lot of work to do this week. But yeah, Formula One has been fantastic to bet on. And then you can easily watch the first couple of practices and see wow, this guy sucks. There's a bet they put up every week. We've been hammering it. Kevin Magnussen over Mick Schumacher. They do it in first practice. They do it in race. And you do it in the first practice. You don't really do it for the race because anything can happen, but you do it in the first practice and qualifying, and it just hits over and over and over again. So, yeah, Formula One this year has been an absolute auto bet type of sport for us when you see some of those trends. And then it's in NASCAR, you don't pay attention to practice as much, but with Formula One, you absolutely are watching practice. I watch the actual practices. You can just see what cars are doing good and what they're not doing good. So there's my Formula One spiel. So go grab that. And Matt, just to put a bow on yours, all your K props are on sportsmemo.com. So if you guys want K props, it's a great time to go over to sportsmemo.com, grab Matt Joseph's K-prop bets and lock those in. Andrew, what a game one in the NHL. My God, I hope we get 7 games of this. We did have McKinnon shots on goal. It gets there, but it gets there because he had 3 shots in 1 minute on a power play. So just a real question on that one. Is that a reason to bet on McKinnon again, shots on goal, or is that a reason to stay away? Because if he doesn't get those 3 shots on that power play in that short period of time, he doesn't go over. Or do you just say that's why you bet on McKinnon, because he can get you 3 shots in under a minute on a power play? So what are your thoughts on that one? It's obviously the biggest name in this series.
I would go with the latter part of that. That's why the number is the way it is. They definitely account for power plays, and they account for him, being the guy that's trigger happy when he's out there in those situations. So, hey, it's not about how you win, Andy. Sometimes it's just about getting the W. I had 2 first 5 horrible, gross losses in the MLB in a row, which I sent you guys. And then last night I had the Texas Rangers against the Tigers, and needed pretty much the last second to get a win there. It doesn't matter how you win, just about getting the job done. So McKinnon, hey, getting it done on the power play for you, that's all good. But what a series, what a start to the series, I guess, here in game 1 to go to overtime. A couple things I wanted to break down, but first and foremost, I wanted to talk about just the updated kind of series spread prices here. If you're looking at that kind of stuff, you're interested in it. Tampa Bay Lightning plus 1.5 games. If people think this series is still going to be close, they're going to stick around. Plus 125 now here. That was like minus 120, 125 beforehand. Tampa Bay, besides Florida, didn't win a first game of a series, and there are 2 other series against New York or against Toronto. In fact, they lost 5-0 against Toronto, and I believe something around 6-2 against the New York Rangers. So, look, it's one game of a series, and I always say that no matter what happens after game 1, whether it's a close game, whether it's a blowout, whether the scorers show up, whether a goaltender shows out, there's going to be overreaction. So, as much as kind of I like to say it would have been nice to see Tampa Bay win the first game so people can get a better price on Colorado to win the Cup. Now it's a really good price on that plus 1.5 for Tampa Bay to keep this series close. Not even to win it, to keep this series close. However, I will say for a large part, it looked to me like Colorado's speed was just a little bit too much, and I was kind of surprised to see Tampa Bay make a game out of that. But I just want to let people know that plus 125 price is a great price. All the stats you see, everything you hear about Tampa Bay off a loss in the playoffs, Andrei Vasilevsky, their goaltender, off a loss in the playoffs. Lots of things to me that are worth mentioning, worth a look. And hey, speaking of Vasilevsky, that's the guy that I want to talk about here. It's unbelievable. I mean, this guy has such an amazing record off a loss in the playoffs. It was in the last 2 years, something around the lines of 17-0. And then he broke it once, okay? He lost one off a loss to the New York Rangers. People act like the sky is falling. Like, just because that one trend died, oh my God, 17-1, we can't bet it anymore. This guy still has a great history off a loss in the playoffs. He hasn't really had a great history in playoffs in general in game 1s. He's a guy that gets better as the series progresses. He's facing a new team. As Andy mentioned, a team that has players like McKinnon that can go 30 minutes without a shot and then get 3 shots in a span of 1 minute. So adjustments are going to be made. I think when you look at this game in general, guys, game 1 to me was an over game. I had a 5% wager on the first period over 1.5 goals. This to me, I think will immediately be an adjustment. I think as the series goes on for the next game 2 and game 3, we'll start to see lower scoring hockey. And then maybe in the later part of the series, we'll start to see the goals pick up again here. So when I look at some of these guys, and I look at some props here, I look towards under as far as points, as far as some of the shots on goal. I think both teams can contain each other, push them to the outside, and you can bet on unders and props. Nobody likes to do it, guys, but I think this could be a good game to do it. We're going to see more of a low-event hockey game tonight, and the goalie save props don't come out until later in the afternoon, but you can bet that I'm taking Vasilevsky over on his save props tonight. Because as much as I say that, these shots on goal props, I might be looking towards some unders, it doesn't mean they won't be spread out. And I feel like that's what is underrated about a team like Colorado is that they have a lot of shooters. They have a lot of guys that shoot the puck. And I think that we could see a lot of guys and key guys go under and still see Vasilevsky go over that save prop for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So that's a look that I'm looking at here for tonight. Power play props. I've talked about it on this show a bunch of times. And I know it might seem weird because you're just banking on, okay, thank goodness my team got a power play, and then they have to score on this power play, and maybe they won't get another chance. But in a series so crucial, with a matchup like this, and the odds you're getting, a difference between the 5-on-5 to the power play is unbelievable. You know, to get Stamkos to get a regular point versus getting him to get a power play point is just unbelievable. You know, the odds are different. Nikita Kucherov is minus 250 to get a 5-on-5 point. Kucherov is plus 105 to get a power play point in a series that looked very physical. Didn't take long for these guys to start hating each other and getting rough. I think we could see some power plays tonight. So if you are betting point props, I do recommend taking the sprinkle on these top guys for those wagers. And also, I wanted to mention, how will this series go? How many games will it take for it to be over? All I'm hearing now, Andy, is gentleman sweep. Here we go. Colorado in 5. I still think the magic number in this series is 6. And that's kind of what I'm looking at. So if you look at DraftKings right now, you can get plus 225 on this to end in 6. And also updated Conn Smythe numbers. Talked about it last week on the show, I believe, briefly, about Nathan McKinnon kind of jumping up ahead of Makar. And I think that as the series progresses, we'll continue to see him lean more towards that favorite. So luckily, we're not seeing the same thing you saw with the finals MVP in the NBA, where the favorite was like minus 110. We actually got some plus prices here. And I think Conn Smythe Trophy, which is the finals MVP in the NHL, I think that belongs to Nathan McKinnon. So quick update on that. But I'm going to say, I think Colorado in 6 takes it. And right now you can get plus 225 on that result for it to be in 6 games for either team.
Nice. Great stuff from Andrew McInnis on the NHL Finals. We don't have too many more of these games. It's a bummer. Wish the playoffs would last forever and ever and ever. I feel like we'd be pretty wealthy if the NHL playoffs, if they'd go to 11-game series or something. The winning percentage has been great. So, all right, guys, we're going to do our best bet here in a minute. Matt Josephs is going to be up to bat to take care of the best bets. Just real quick, Andrew McInnis, you can find all of his stuff on WagerTalk.com. Look for some really good NHL and CFL. I love sports like CFL. They're a little bit fringy. The books don't have all their attention on it, and really good handicappers like Andrew can come in and dominate and really increase your bankroll. So go check him out. Matt Josephs, there's nobody better and nobody else I will talk to besides him about K-props. You can find all of his action and wagers on sportsmemo.com. Just get all access with him. It's the best way. You're going to get notified immediately of his K-props before the lines change. So look for Matt to keep rolling in K-props. And auto racing has been fantastic for me. That package is up for the Formula One race. We got the U.S. Open going right now. We also have a baseball strong play that is up for today. We're on a 12-1 run in MLB. So all of that can be found at WagerTalk.com. Go check that out. Grab an all-access pass. All right, Matt, are you ready, sir? You're up for best bet. Let's go to lifelong Warriors fan Matt Josephs for his prop it up bet of the week. Matt, the floor is yours.
James Harden over 250 pounds in training camp next year. That's what my bet is.
Take the over.
Yeah,
Take
exactly.
the over.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're going to go and we're going to head to Fenway Park where the Boston Red Sox are taking on the St. Louis Cardinals, and we're looking at under 4.5 strikeouts for old man Adam Wainwright. And look, the numbers here are in our favor. The Red Sox are 24th in K rate versus right-handed starting pitchers. The weather is hot. The wind is blowing out in Fenway. That means we should get plenty of runs. On the road, in his last 4 starts, Wainwright's had 0, 3, 2, and 3 strikeouts. And if you look at some of the teams he faced the Cubs, he's faced some other teams who do strike out a lot. 12 of the last 14 right-handed starting pitchers to have faced Boston in Fenway have gone under this number. The Red Sox lineup is hot. The only guy I'm really worried about is Trevor Story. He's striking out a lot and doesn't have necessarily the best numbers against Adam Wainwright, but 4.5 is a pretty healthy number here. I'm going under 4.5 strikeouts for Adam Wainwright today for the St. Louis Cardinals against the Boston Red Sox in Fenway Park.
There you have it. Prop of the week, looking at Wainwright, under 4.5. Wainwright, I feel like Wainwright is one of these guys that we've been betting on for 20 years. It's really funny. Some of these baseball pitchers, it's just like, my God, I can bet on Jose Quintana again? Or like how long has this guy been doing it? But I mean, you look at the longevity of the athletes, it's pretty incredible. So I feel like we're going to be taking Steph Curry props 8 years from now, still looking back, and Matt's going to be
all about that
celebrating,
load management, Andy. All about the load management.
Matt's going to be celebrating 3 more rings with his new team.
Until James Harden goes to the Warriors, then I'm going to leave them.
Oh, no way. The Warriors are way too smart to do something like that. So, all right, guys.
Like some people I know that follow around LeBron James. Matt runs away from James Harden.
Exact opposite.
It's the only running that's being done around James Harden.
The Warriors win a title, and Matt wakes up to just annihilate Harden. It's great. so good. So, all right, guys, go grab that Prop It Up play of the week on Wainwright. And just a quick reminder, myself and Andrew can be found on WagerTalk.com. We've got NHL, CFL. We didn't even talk about UFC, but there's a really good UFC card that's very bettable. I've got a best bet up for that. Andrew's going to have his shortly. And then all K props can be found on sportsmemo.com with Matt Josephs. And looking forward to getting some college football information and some bets kind of sneaking in as we move forward over the next couple weeks. So tune in next week for that. We'll have more of the same. So for Andrew McInnis and Matt Josephs, I am Andy Lang. Good luck. Let's have a great weekend. Let's increase those bankrolls, and we will see you next week on Prop It Up.
Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Father's Day. Why not treat yourself to a Father's Day gift that keeps giving? The second half of the MLB season will sell for $4.99, but if you sign up before this offer expires on Sunday, we'll throw in the 5 weeks leading up to the All-Star break for free. That's only $4.99 for every MLB play from now through the final game of the World Series in November from your favorite WagerTalk and Sports Memo handicapper. This amazing offer expires Sunday at midnight, so just go to your favorite handicappers page at WagerTalk or Sports Memo and lock in all of the MLB action through the World Series for under $3.50 a day.